Welcome to Augmented Teachings, where we will talk about the things that will inspire us to think better, feel better, and in turn be better. I'll be your host, Todd Michael Jackson, and I have my co-host here, Brandi Pagano. How you doing, Brandi?
I am so happy to be here. It's great. It's the 1st of April, and we are here on Talk 960 for our radio show for Augmented Teachings. How are you?
I'm very excited, and we have some really great topics.
Yes, we do.
And I can't wait to talk about them. You know, sometimes we come in here, we have a whole idea of what we're going to do, and then when at the last minute we're like, you know what, let's change the topic. Let's talk about this because it's more prevalent in what's happening today.
Right. And part of that for me is using my intuition and really tapping into that flow of spirit that we talk about, or God, or the frequency of, all that is. It's like, what wants to be expressed right now? Right. What needs to be known for our listeners, for ourselves, for the expansion of our consciousness? And today's show is all about that.
Right. So today's show, the first segment will be, where does God exist? People think God exists maybe in our hearts or above us somewhere in the heavens.
Somewhere outside of us, right?
Outside of us,
yeah,
right?
we get that question a lot.
Or God's in a book, or, God's a religious idea, or all kinds of different things you think of when it comes to what is God and where does God exist. And as being an N.D.E researcher, I have a very unique understanding, and I want to bring that to everybody. So everybody can remember. I want everybody to be able to relate to this.
Okay.
So remember when everybody was in science class, right?
Yeah.
Right? And you're drawing an atom.
Okay.
Right?
I can picture it.
Right? And you have the protons and the neutrons in the middle, and you have electrons going around the outside.
Okay.
Right? And you draw a little circle, and you have the stuff in the middle, and you have the electrons going around the outside.
Right.
Well, in reality, electrons don't spin. They vibrate.
That's right.
They vibrate, right? And we draw these pictures so that our little brains can have a visual picture of what's happening.
Of the movement, right?
Of the movement. But the electrons vibrate, right? That vibration takes energy. And God is an ocean of benevolent energy. That energy, that is God, creates the vibration within every atom in this universe. So that's how God is omnipresent. God is at the atomic level and giving existence and the properties to every atom that we come in contact with every single day.
It literally is that substance that forms and makes up everything.
Everything.
Because everything is vibrating. Everything is energy. We talk about this chair we're sitting on, this table in front of us, our physical vessels, right? We are living in this physical reality of matter and form, and all of that is the vibration of God, right?
Exactly. And there's no way of escaping God, no way of hiding out and doing things behind God's back, because God is everything, including your own body. Your own body is made of atoms.
Right.
That's how God is able to know every one of your thoughts and every one of your feelings and every one of your ideas. That's why in the Bible it says, just think it and it's already done, right? You might as well have done it because you already thought it.
Right.
So all things are known by God, but it's also being saved and recorded. And all things are known by everybody back home, too.
And so you say when it's being recorded, is that part of like the Akashic Records?
Yes. So basically what happens is when we have our events through our lives, right, we come to a place back home in heaven called the Past Life Review.
Okay.
And we review our lives through our senses and through emotions, right? But we also use these examples in classroom settings. So sometimes there'll be a situation where maybe you stole something over and over and over. Then finally, you didn't steal something. You grew.
There was that turning point,
right? And in classroom settings, all the instances are recorded so that we can use them to educate and learn from each other. So not only do we learn here on this planet, on this classroom called Earth, we also learn back home in heaven as we move around, learning from each other. So it's very important that everything's recorded and everything's saved so we can grow together as a species, as a society, but all in all, as we grow, are the love within our souls through understanding and acceptance, learning by making mistakes over and over again.
I really love what you're talking about today. And as I'm listening to you speak about it, I was kind of thinking of like a math test. You know, you learn the material, you experience it, then you take the test, and then, your teacher grades it, gives it back to you.
Yes.
And then you can kind of see where you need to correct. Well, when we go back to heaven, when we're outside of this physical vessel, then we get to look at, what was on that test? What did we learn? What did we go through? How did we progress? And where do we need to recalibrate? We need to go back and learn a little bit more on that math quiz, right? And if we think of life as a school, that we're always learning, we're always growing, that the purpose of all of our experiences is to progress, then that gives us more reason to, I don't know, I guess just kind of see where we're at.
Right, exactly. And not only that, when we watch our past life review, it shows our deficiencies.
Yes.
And it helps us make better plannings for our next lifetime. Yes, we do reincarnate, because every time we come here, there's a potential to grow and to learn unconditional love. And one of the things that people ask me a lot is, so we reincarnate, and I know some religions believe in we reincarnate into different animals and stuff like that.
Oh, like I could come back as a dog or a cat or a cow or something.
Or alligator or whatever, right? And that doesn't work, because what happens is the DNA of our vessels is a lot different than the DNA of a cat or a dog.
Uh-huh.
The DNA within these vessels that we reside in now, these human forms, right? They have a DNA that can handle that's a consciousness as large as ours. So we can never fit a consciousness as large as ours into the DNA of a cat. It would just turn into light.
Because of the size of the vessel?
No, not the size of the vessel, the development of the DNA.
The development of the DNA
allows a soul as large as ours to enter inside.
And is that because as individual souls we have that consciousness of God?
Well, what happens is basically God evolved these vessels and leaned on them leaned on our DNA with love, leaned on it until the DNA was so evolved within these vessels that a soul as large as ours could enter.
Right.
Now that we've entered these vessels, right? We're able to enter these vessels now. At birth, we enter these vessels, right? And we lean on these vessels also through the love we learned from the inside. So the DNA is advancing faster than it used to. Right.
And I definitely can relate to that in my personal practice, because I'm not the same person that I was 5 years ago. I'm not the same person that I was a year ago, because every time I deepen my practice of mindfulness and spirituality and I expand my consciousness through conversations like this, I'm seeing life from a different perspective. And when I can work the puzzle of unconditional love and bring in more love, more light, more compassion, all of those things that are part of that frequency of God, right? Love, joy, bliss, all of those things. When I bring more of that into my consciousness, I really do feel my physical vessel shift from the inside out. And I can't explain that. It's not like I look any different on the outside, but on the inside, I feel different. And then I see life through different filters, because I've expanded that consciousness. I've altered that DNA, and I've brought in more love, more light, more of that God frequency, that God, what do they say? There's like this particle, they call it like the God particle or something, that's in our DNA that they really can't identify. Like, what is that? And I know we've talked about that, and maybe we'll talk about that in another episode, but I can definitely attest to that is so true.
Right. And one of the things that I've learned from my N.D.E research is that these vessels, as great as they are, they still can't hold our whole soul.
No.
Our soul is so big. Right now, we're sitting about 30 to 35% of our soul can actually enter these vessels before they turn to light. As we lean on our DNA, and our society learns to overcome fear and lean towards acceptance and love, our DNA will start advancing, allowing a little bit more of our soul to enter than the last generation.
Right.
And the generation before that one.
Because it's progress.
It's progress. And we keep going and going until we're 40%, 50%, 60% of our soul is actually able to enter these vessels, and you will be able to carry more attributes that we have back home here to earth in these vessels.
Right. Absolutely. And for me, that whole idea that you're talking about really kind of aligns with the idea of personal ascension, that we are ascending, we are vibrating higher. And sometimes people think of that as the path to enlightenment, by all of the things that we're doing, all of our practices, as we're bringing in more light, we are expanding, we are growing, and we are ascending higher and higher frequencies. So we are getting closer and closer to that full frequency of heaven that is God, that is our potential, that is our end result at some form or another, is to be that being of light, to be enveloped by that light.
Right. And I know, like with you can meditate very well, and and you can connect to source, you can connect to God, you can connect to
through practice. Absolutely.
Through the energies on the other side, outside of your vessel. Yeah. But it took time and effort.
And I will tell you, just as you've spoken about that these vessels cannot contain that, I have had experiences where I have felt more than my body can handle, and I've had to pull out of those deep, deep meditations. And so sometimes people think, oh, meditation is so wonderful. It is, but sometimes the physical vessel cannot fully accept all that you are feeling with those emotions, because our thoughts create our emotions and our emotions create our reality. And sometimes it's like, wait a minute, I deep dived into that meditation, so let me back out a little bit. And that's why mindfulness opens the door to meditation. Mindfulness is a tool that helps you to get to that state of mind that you can receive, that you can connect. Right. And, for all of our listeners, just keep going. Right. There's some people that say, I can't meditate. I don't know how. It's too hard for me. Start with your breathing. Start focusing on your breathing and calming down your vessel, calming down that monkey mind that we've talked about. Right. And just keep moving forward.
Right. Because another thing is, where does God exist? God also exists within us, because our soul is a direct representation of God. The problem is, our vessels are such strong forces that we have to fight against, that we often forget that. We're our vessel thrives on fear and ego, and our soul does not know what fear and ego is, because it is a being of light. Right.
Absolutely.
And we come into these vessels, and only 30% of our vessel can enter, only 30% of our soul can enter. It's at a disadvantage.
And, quickly before we take our break, is there a way that we can talk about, our aura and our auric field? Because I know from my experience and my interpretation and understanding that the physical vessel cannot contain all that we are as far as a spirit, right, or a soul. And so there are these ways that you can measure, and people can actually see the aura of another human being. Yes. Or there's machines that can measure that. Right. And that shows that our soul is actually outside of our vessel. It's coming through us, that we're just using this vessel as a vehicle, right? And it can't contain all of it.
Vehicles for learning. That's what these vessels are. These bodies are vehicles for learning. And that aura will change as you learn that hell isn't a place, it's a state of mind. And if you learn to overcome the negativity and the fear and the judgment, your aura will start to lighten up and become brighter and stronger, and become and reach out to others around you, and you will be able to lighten the light of people around you.
Right. And thank you so much for saying that. Thank you for that. Because when we have more peace and love and light within, then we project that, we broadcast that out. And so whoever's in our physical, experience, or listening to us, or simply just tapping in and thinking about us, we can connect in those ways. Yes. And that's how we bring more love, more light, more peace and joy into the world. It all starts with us. Right. So you are listening to Augmented Teachings on Talk 960. We're going to take a quick break. Thank you. Today's show is sponsored by the High Desert Center for Spiritual Living in Apple Valley. And now a message from our sponsor. Join us on Earth Day, Saturday, April 22nd from 8:30 to 4 for our 18th semi-annual Healthy Spirit Fair. Come learn what the High Desert has to offer in contemporary, conventional, and integrative practices. Free parking, free admission, free speakers and demos from a variety of backgrounds throughout the day. Our opening ceremony is at 8:30 and our closing ceremony is at 3:45. Shop local vendors showcasing products and services geared towards promoting a healthy body, mind, and spirit connection and development. Check out the Healthy Spirit Fair April 22nd at HDCSL on Corwin Road in Apple Valley. For more info or to sign up as a vendor, please call Brandi at 760-242-2302. please find our event on Facebook and Eventbrite. You may just find what you're looking for. Welcome back to Augmented Teachings on Talk 960. Thank you for joining us today, and please tell your friends about us. You can find us every Saturday at 9 a.m. and Sunday at 7:30 a.m. right here on Talk 960. You can also download the Talk 960 app to listen live right from your phone, which is what I personally like to do. Please find us on social media and YouTube, and remember to like and subscribe for more content. You can also find us on Amazon Music and Spotify. Todd, we're back here on Talk 960, and that first segment was absolutely amazing, and I really like the way that you explain things. So
Yes, you're welcome, and thank you very much. And I really can't wait to get to the next topic, but we have to finish a little bit on the last one. So, where does God exist? And we explained at the atomic level, right? The energy that creates every atom through vibration. That energy comes from God itself.
yeah,
All right, that ocean of benevolence, that is God. So, if you go to the next step, you can literally say science and God are one and the same,
right.
because the study and manipulation of God's atoms is science.
Right.
Right. So, a lot of times, like, who's right, science or is it religion? Right. And it's really both, because they just haven't met in the middle yet. When people realize that God creates the atoms that the scientists are studying, whether it be in bones or whatever science finds out, it's okay. God did it. As long as you don't limit God to a book, then you're okay. God is 1,000,000 times bigger than the Bible. 1,000,000 times bigger. And as long as you quit restricting God to just the Bible, and you're like, doesn't matter what scientists find out, God did it. It's okay.
It's all God.
It doesn't have to be a fight of we're right and they're wrong mentality. It can be all, they're right and God did it. Then I can go about my day skipping down the street. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
As long as you are willing to accept that God is all things, not just what's in the Bible. So
Very good. Thank you.
there was another topic that we're going to talk about, and it has a lot to do with a current event, and we picked it right now because it's very important that we talk about this, especially for the families involved.
Okay.
So there was a mass shooting,
Right.
and all mass shootings are inevitably the same. Not the same people, not the same
Details.
actors within this event, but they all have the same result, right? There's people that are dying, and there's people that are shooting,
Yeah.
right? And one thing we have to realize is that there are things that we do on the other side, things we plan for ourselves.
Like before we come here, right,
Before
for
we
this
come
life
here,
experience.
Before we come here to help ourselves. Sometimes you come here with a challenge lifetime, such as cancer or some type of birth defect, to help develop the souls around us. Then there's souls, very old souls, that will choose to take a challenge on to help society develop and grow. And one of the things that we realize is that God loves us enough to allow this plan to enact. Back home in heaven, there are no guns because there is no fear.
Right.
There is no ego. There is no judgment. There is no hate. We all are altruistic and loving towards each other.
There's no separation in heaven. There's no separation within God.
We're all one and the same.
Absolutely.
We're all pieces of God floating around in God's ocean. we're little grains of salt within the ocean of God.
I like to think of, you were talking about that atom, and everything kind of vibrating around. We are also those pieces that are vibrating in these individual forms.
Yes. And when we look at it from a different angle, we come here to serve God and do this and do that. And actually, we're the ones that are actually developing our souls, coming here, choosing to come here and develop our souls. We're the ones that are coming down here to create the memories for God. We're the ones doing the work. God's the creator. We're the experiencer.
Right. I love when you say that.
And God, we don't serve God God serves us. That's the way it works. So when we have this plan, as tragic as it is, God loves you enough to allow it to happen. Right. Because we don't have just the goals of capitalists or Christians or Americans. We have the goal of love and acceptance. And right now, we'll start with this country. Okay. This country, there are thousands and thousands of children that have already said, I will go to help this society.
Those souls signed up. And, you know, we've talked in the past that those souls are kind of like an angel.
Yes.
They're an old soul, and they say, you know what? I understand that when I go back to life school on earth in a physical vessel, I may have some challenges. Right. I'm okay with that. My whole body is vibrating because that's like God speaking to me saying, yes, that is true for me. And these victims, in quote, in this life, you know, I'm sorry to the families. I'm sorry to
my condolences
to everybody that's involved in these tragedies. That doesn't mean that we don't still feel those human emotions. We are a spiritual being having a human experience, and this vessel has emotions. And this brain, this ego, has thoughts and feelings regarding those emotions. Yes. And those victims signed up to play that role in the play of life for the development of the souls around them.
And the society in which they live.
In the society in which they live. Absolutely.
How many people are now thinking twice about having open gun laws where everybody can get whatever they want, whenever they want?
So this is, in a sense, a gift. And I'm sorry to say that, and I'm sorry if that is triggering to any of our listeners or viewers. I don't mean it in a gift as in like a celebration. No.
The gift of knowledge.
It's a gift of knowledge. It's a gift of wisdom. It's an opportunity to come together and reunite society, reunite humanity, reunite all of these younger souls that need to develop. So this shooter is a younger soul, or is it an older soul playing the part? What's your take on that?
More than likely, it's a younger soul that would be able to do it. An older soul wouldn't be able to take another life. An older soul would remove themselves from the situation that they lived in.
Even if they were here to show all those other people around what not to do, what if they did that and they overcame it?
Yes. Matter of fact, it's very hard for an old soul to reenact karma that is owed to them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If they were in a cycle where something was done to them and they have to come here and repeat that to the other person, they can't do it. It has to be done through somebody else.
It's a struggle.
It's a struggle.
I can't even kill a spider.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, if somebody, you know, killed you last lifetime and you need to repay that karma, and you're like, I'm too old of a soul to do that.
Yeah, and that's where choice comes in.
Right.
Because even though our soul may have signed up to play back that karma, sometimes when we have that consciousness, we can still choose, you know what? I don't want to do that. I can't do that. And I like to think of, you know, meditation as listening to God, right? And through our intention work, through our affirmations, through our prayers, that's when we're speaking to God. We're putting that out there into the law of the universe, into the law of attraction. And everything that happens after the prayer or after the intention is an answer from God to that prayer.
Yes. And the reason why we have less of a problem making that sacrifice, those old souls making that sacrifice to have that horrific thing happen to them for the betterment of society, is because they already know where they're going to return to.
Yeah.
They already know. We all return to heaven. You know, the first place you go to is your past life review after you pass. You pass out of this body, and that's in heaven. You go to heaven. So they already know where they're going to return to, and they're going to be here more times anyway. They're going to, you know, we're here hundreds of times to develop a soul to get to the point of learning unconditional love. You got to go around the block a couple times. You know, you're going to be here many times, and they're going to get they might get the first body back. You know what I'm saying? Just the first body they can get, they're going to come right back, and they may do it again. Just so that we can advance our society to thinking what's correct and what isn't correct in new ways. And right now, I think a lot of people are so hell-bent on ego that and fear. They don't want to get rid of their security blanket of their guns. I need an assault rifle. I need this. And it's like, no, you don't need this. A 2-year-old needs a blanket. A teenager usually doesn't anymore. So younger souls will cling onto guns and fight tooth and nail for something that they probably will never use.
Well, and that's because we're talking about a different idea of reality. We're talking about different paradigms. Two people can be watching the same movie and picking up on different things.
Right.
Some person may love all of the violence and the greed and the destruction and all this dysfunction, while another person is watching that same movie and it's horrible for them. Right. It's torture to watch that, because where we see life where we see from. And so if we have that dysfunctionality within us, we're going to be attracted to that.
Yes.
So how do we overcome that? Overcoming the dysfunctionality that is within us first.
Right.
And then we will not see it as much. We will not be attracted to it as much on the external, plane.
And that's the whole purpose of being here, to fix ourselves. And sometimes we get a smack on the face. And when, as our thinking is changed.
Yeah.
Because of the situations that we find ourselves in.
Absolutely.
And then sometimes people are so young and so dysfunctional that they'll attack the people that went through this horrific situation.
Right. I know. That's terrible.
Because they don't want to let the ego be wrong. The ego cannot be wrong. That, they need these guns, they need all these things, and need it's fear. And it's not necessary.
No.
And their ego will not let them be wrong, so they'll fight tooth and nail that these people were wrong, instead of saying, you know what, maybe I need to rethink my priorities in life.
Absolutely. And for me, it's been a challenge for me to not judge those that are, causing all of that. Go ahead.
No, the one thing I wanted to add to is I want those people out there that are really just holding on to their guns and sleep with it next to them, right? How many children have to die?
Yeah.
Set a number. Just set a number in your head so that the souls on the other side can say, okay, this person said this many. We'll make that happen for him. We'll make that happen for her. You need this many? This is what will happen so that you can learn anything that you need so that you can realize it's not right. Or it has to be somebody you know. Or it has to be a friend. Then, okay, then if that's what it needs to be, then that's what it needs to be. Just know that may be the outcome. Because whatever you need to grow, God will help you. And there's souls on their side that love you enough to help you in the most horrific ways by sacrificing themselves. And they're not sacrificing their soul, but they are sacrificing their vessel.
Their vessel.
Their vessel.
Their experience here on this plane of existence. And I really think we unpacked a lot today. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your understanding, Todd. And I know that every time we come together and we have these conversations, I know that I, as an individual, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm deepening. A lot of the things that I felt intuitively, you're giving me the why, and it's helping me to understand that so much deeper. And I can tell you from a personal standpoint, my life has completely shifted since we started this almost a year ago. And it is just, it reminds me that we are reuniting society through this understanding, through this wisdom, because we are deepening, we're growing, and we're expanding our consciousness. We're looking at things differently. And so if you are listening to us right here on Talk 960 or on YouTube or Spotify or whatever that is, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. And if you want to further this conversation, please email us at augmentedteachings@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word. And we'd love to connect and, see how we can deepen this conversation.
Yes, please reach out to us because we're always looking for topics. And there are a lot of questions that you may have that have been asked on the other side of the veil. And I have a lot of that information, and I can just bring it out and share it with everybody so you know that you're in God's realm, and God loves you, and we're all here to learn and have love and laughter in our hearts and to keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.